welcome to part 5 of the Chalice of Blood Warhammer 40,000 narrative campaign, brought to you by the Legion Wargaming. If you haven't yet watched parts 1 to 4, we would recommend you do so, but to briefly recap, we are on the world of Calicum Tertius, known as the Chalice, where the World Eaters are seeking to destroy their former brothers, the Raven Guard. So far, the World Eaters have decisively defeated both the Raven Guard in a slaughter at their drop site and the newly arrived Grey Knights as they launched a teleport attack on the traitors' command centre. The Raven Guard have been holding the World Eaters back in bloody street fighting in the ruins of Farlight City, but now there is an opportunity for the Ravens to join forces with the surviving Grey Knights and strike back at the traitorous World Eaters. We have witnessed the deaths of both the Raven Guard captain and the Grey Knights Grand Master, and the time has come for them to be avenged. The battle today is 2,500 points and is a custom scenario as the Raven Guard try to join their forces with the surviving Grey Knights in Manufactorum 7 Delta. They have to leave the ruins of Farlight City, and the World Eaters are waiting for them. Let's take a look at the armies and the scenario. This 2,500 point World Eaters army is battle forged. Its A Legion is a Astartes 30k Horus Heresy list, and it is split into two separate sections. The first is 1,500 points and is led by Nearchus. He is back. He's a Legion Praetor with a Paragon Blade, and this time he has brought the 12th Legion Master of Signal, Alak Damraz, with him. As Nearchus has Pride of the Legion, he has brought some very elite troops. A squad of Cataphracti Terminators. They have a Reaper autocannon, 2 pairs of Lightning Claws and some Power Fists, and a squad of veterans. They have the Snipers, Veteran Tactic, and they have a Sergeant with Artificer Armour and a Power Fist. For elites, Nearchus has a Legion Apothecary and a Contemptor Talon. One Contemptor with a multi-melter, a Power Fist and a Melter Gun, and the other Contemptor has the dreaded Twin Kerry's Assault Cannons. He also has a Havoc Missile Rack. As well as the elite troops choices, Nearchus also has a squad of 12 Tactical Marines. They have bolt pistols and chain axes. Their Sergeant has Artificer Armour and a Power Fist, and he also has some armoured support in the form of a Legion Predator with las cannon sponsons and a Plasma Executioner. The other section of this army is 1,000 points and will be coming up behind the Ravens. Arian is calling them from the ruins of Farlight City to trap the Ravens between the two sections of the World Eaters force. Arian himself is a Legion Centurion. He is a member of the Librarius, and he is Mastery Level 2, and he's brought an Apothecary with him as well. He has a full strength Legion Tactical Squad. There's 20 Marines, bolt pistols and chain axes. Their Sergeant has a Power Fist and Artificer Armour, and he still has his Rampagers with their gladiatorial weapons. Their Champion has a Power Fist, and they have brought along their Land Raider, and it has Armoured Ceramite. And Arian's force has another Predator, this time with heavy bolter sponsons and a Predator cannon. These are the forces that the World Eaters will be using to try to trap the Raven Guard before they can join forces with the Grey Knights. Let's see what the loyal sons of the Imperium are bringing along to this battle. This 2,500 point list is split into two separate forces, like the World Eaters, and this time we have 1,500 points of Raven Guard. They are split into two formations. The first is a First Company Task Force. They have a squad of Stern Guard veterans. They have 4 Combi Melters. They are in a Rhino, and veteran Sergeant Kalen Var is this army's warlord. The First Company Task Force also contains a kitted out squad of Vanguard on foot. They have plasma pistols, power swords, power fists, storm shields, all sorts of things. They are in a Rhino, and another squad of Vanguard veterans, this time with jump packs, and they all have power fists and storm shields. The Ravens are relying on their veterans to punch their way through the World Eaters' lines to reach the Grey Knights, and also they are relying on speed. They are fielding a spear tip strike, one of the White Scars formations from the Carry On supplement. We have a squad of 5 bikers led by a veteran sergeant with a power sword, and a squad of 4 bikers and an attack bike. 2 of these bikers have melter guns, the attack bike has a multi-melter, and in this formation there are 3 land speeders. They're all separate, they all have heavy flamers and multi-melters. This formation gives them the ability to suppress the enemy, to harass them, and we hope just to punch through the World Eaters' lines. So, as well as the 1,500 points of Raven Guard, the other element of this army is 1,000 points of Grey Knights. Once again, there are no HQs. That is a restriction placed on the Grey Knights and the Raven Guard in this scenario. The Grey Knights have brought along a squad of 6 Grey Knights. They are forming a strike squad. They all have Nemesis Force halberds and 2 squads of Terminators. One, they have Force swords and a Psi cannon, and the Justicar has Nemesis Falchions, and another squad of Terminators. They have Force halberds, a silencer, and the Justicar has Falchions. They have also brought along a squad of 5 Purifiers. They are looking to get some cleansing flame off with these guys. They all have their Nemesis Force swords, a Dreadnought with twin link las cannon and a missile launcher for some fire support, and an interceptor squad of 6. They have 3 halberds and 2 demon hammers. And the Grey Knights, much like Arian's force of World Eaters, will be coming out of the Manufactorum complex to try and catch Nearchus and his World Eaters between themselves and the Ravens. This could be a very confusing and very, very bloody battle. Let's take a look at deployment, and we'll go through some more of the scenario rules. And the armies have deployed. In this scenario it is Vanguard strike deployment, but with a twist. The 1,500 points of Raven Guard have deployed opposite Captain Nearchus' 1,500 points of World Eaters. Both sides have 1,000 points in reserve. And the World Eaters reserves, led by Arian, will move on to the table from this table edge as they emerge from the ruins in pursuit of the Raven Guard. Meanwhile, down in Manufactorum 7 Delta, the Grey Knights will arrive from reserve by moving onto the table from this table edge, which will bring them on behind Nearchus' forces. So, this could be a very interesting battle. The objective is to kill the enemy. It's kill points, but the Loyalists are desperate to avenge their fallen commanders. They have no independent characters, but the World Eaters have 3, and the Raven Guard and Grey Knights will get an extra kill point for each independent character that they manage to slay. So, the Ravens, they have emerged from the outskirts and they are being led by their 1st Company Task Force. The veterans with jump packs and power fists have leapt up onto the roof of this bunker. They are looking to move into the Manufactorum as quickly as possible. They are backed up by the other squad of Vanguard veterans in their Rhino. Again, looking to move forward, and Sergeant Kalen Var has got his Stern Guard with him in his Rhino, and they may give fire or they may move forwards depending on tactical necessity. Meanwhile, the spear tip strike is paused. They are looking to move in force and very, very rapidly to smash the World Eaters' right flank, and of course to get away from this table edge where a lot more angry World Eaters will be arriving. Meanwhile, the World Eaters led by Nearchus have set up their line to resist the Raven Guard. They have anchored their right flank with their Contemptor Talon, the Contemptor with the Multi-Melter and the Contemptor with the Kerries. He's standing on top of this rocky rise. He has got an excellent view of the Ravens as they approach. Nearchus himself and his 1 apothecary have joined the squad of 12 tactical World Eaters. They're in cover and they are looking to storm into the centre of the battlefield as usual, supported by the Cataphracti Terminators, who are looking to stomp forward as well. They are supported by the Legion Predator, who has taken up a good defensive position behind these barricades in the outskirts of the Manufactorum, although he is looking quite vulnerable to any arriving Grey Knights. And Alak Damraz, the Master of Signal, is leading the Veteran Tactical Squad here on the outskirts of the Manufactorum, and they are going to try to gun down the Raven Guard veterans while they're still in the open. We will see how they get on with that. The World Eaters deployed first, so unless the Raven Guard can seize the initiative, we will be going into World Eaters turn 1. The Ravens failed to seize the initiative and the World Eaters are on the move. At the end of their first movement phase, their Contemptors have both stomped forward 4 inches. They're trying to bring their deadly weaponry into range of the spear tip strike. And Nearchus has ordered his tactical marines forward. They have swarmed all over the ruined shrine. As the Terminators stomp past them, they don't need cover. They are happy just to move through the open in their cataphracti plate. But on the World Eaters' left flank, disaster has befallen them in a couple of ways. A double one for the veterans on their move through cover has meant that they failed to bring their bolt guns into range of the Vanguard veterans. On top of that bunker, which is very disappointing, and even worse, as its scanners pick up the rapidly approaching Grey Knights, the Predator attempted to move to the safety of the centre of the World Eaters line, but it's immobilised itself, it's lost a whole point, so very vulnerable now. Good result for the Loyalists. As Arian has not yet made his way to the battlefield, there is no psychic phase in World Eaters turn 1, so we move on to World Eaters shooting phase turn 1. End of World Eaters shooting phase turn 1, and although this Contemptor managed to get his multi-melter into range of the nearest spikes, he realises that targeting Raven Guard in cover on turn 1 is not the easiest when you only have a single shot weapon, so he ran forward 3 inches instead. The Contemptor with the Kerries, on the other hand, he decided to open fire regardless and was rewarded by gunning down a single biker. They made a lot of cover saves against him. Nearchus and his squad, they ran forward another couple of inches, and the Terminators opened fire with their Reaper on the Vanguard veterans. Rhino, they had no effect, but the Predator redeemed itself somewhat. It managed to get a penetrating hit on that Rhino with one of its las cannon sponsons and has shaken it. But disappointment, as it turned out that its Executioner plasma cannon was out of range. These veterans thought about moving forwards, but then they realised perhaps not advisable to get closer to the Raven Guard Vanguard with their power fists and their storm shields. So, quite a disappointing first turn from the World Eaters. Let's see if the Raven Guard can do better going into Raven Guard turn 1. End of Raven Guard movement phase turn 1, and the spear tip strike has thrust out of the outskirts of Farlight City. They have all moved up 12 inches without incident. They passed a lot of dangerous terrain rolls. More importantly, they have managed to get 4 multi-melters into range of the nearest Contemptor, but only 2, the ones on the nearest 2 land speeders, are in melter range. Meanwhile, the other bike squad is moving towards the centre. They are hoping to start a game of cat and mouse with Nearchus and his World Eaters. Meanwhile, it looks like the 1st Company Task Force are attempting an encirclement. They are going to use their speed to keep away from the Terminators and Nearchus himself in the centre. They are moving straight towards the Manufactorum, and both Rhinos have moved 12 inches, and the Vanguard veterans have leapt forward 12 inches as well. Could it be that the Ravens are going to try an encirclement tactic here and link up with the Grey Knights? We shall see. The Grey Knights have not yet arrived, so the Ravens do not have a psychic phase in their first turn. So we go into Raven Guard shooting phase turn 1. End of Raven Guard shooting phase turn 1, and a disappointing phase for the Ravens. The 2 melters that were in melter range from the 2 land speeders targeted the nearest Contemptor. One managed to get a penetrating hit, but the venerable War Machine is only shaken. He still has his power fist, he's looking forward to using it, and the other melters that targeted. They got another hit, but out of melder range they could not penetrate his armour. The other bike squad targeted Nearchus' squad with their bolters from some range, failed to have any effect, and the 1st Company Task Force continues to employ mobile warfare. The Vanguard veterans with jump packs have run forward another 3 inches, and meanwhile both rhinos have moved flat out. They seemingly have no interest in tackling the centre of the World Eaters line. So a very short phase from the Raven Guard, and both sides have had very disappointing first turns. Let's see if things improve for the World Eaters, and if Arian, or at least some of his units, arrive going into World Eaters turn 2. End of World Eaters movement phase turn 2, and their abysmal run of luck so far in this battle continues, as out of Arian's force only his Predator has rumbled its way through the ruins into the battle, but at least with its heavy bolters and its Predator cannon it is an ideal tank for shooting down land speeders. The Contemptor that is shaken is stomping towards the bike squad with melter guns. He is eyeing up a charge. Meanwhile, the other Contemptor with the Kerries, he is going to try and shoot down another land speeder, we think. Nearchus has realised the danger of the Grey Knight's arrival, and he is leading his large squad back towards the Manufactorum. Meanwhile, both the Terminators and the veterans have moved forward. They are trying to bring as much of their weaponry into range of the Vanguard veterans as possible. And the Predator, right back on the far left flank, is still immobilised. We will see if his executioner cannon is in range or if it has line of sight, but if not, he can see a rhino for his last cannons. As Arian has failed to arrive, there is still no psychic phase in World Eaters turn 2, so we go into World Eaters turn 2 shooting phase. And a World Eaters shooting phase turn 2, and it has been a much better phase for the traitors. Although the newly arrived Predator was quite disappointing, managed 3 penetrating hits on this land speeder, but they managed to jink 2 of them, although the one that got through has still stunned it. The advancing Contemptor led off a couple of snapshots with his multi-melter and melter gun, but missed with both, and meanwhile this land speeder attempted to jink its way through the hail of shells unleashed by the Kerry's assault cannons on the other Contemptor. To no avail, it was easily shot down, earning the traitors first blood. Meanwhile, Nearchus has led his squad in a 6-inch run back towards the Manufactorum. He is trying to get back to protect his Predator, although it has been very disappointing. It missed with both of its las cannons, and its executioner managed to do a couple of wounds on the advancing Vanguard veterans, but their storm shields saved them all. 2 were shot down by a deadly accurate hail of fire from the World Eaters veterans. They were given +1 ballistic skill by the Master of Signal and his Cognis Signum. Meanwhile, the Reaper autocannon on the Terminators was very effective. Got 2 hits and 2 pens against the Stern Guard's Rhino. It is shaken and stunned, although thankfully its occupants passed their check, so they are free to act. But a much better phase from the World Eaters, and we have a potential assault. The Contemptor is going to try to charge the Melter Bikes in World Eaters Assault Phase Turn 2. End of World Eaters Assault Phase Turn 2, and you really don't get much worse a phase than that. The Contemptor charged at the bikes. The first biker with a melter gun rolled a 6 to hit on Overwatch. The second biker with a melter gun rolled a 6 to hit on Overwatch. And the attack bike with its multi-melter rounded it off. It was a 666, and the Contemptor was blown to pieces. Excellent phase for the Ravens, disastrous phase for the World Eaters. Let's see if the Ravens can capitalise on that extraordinary piece of luck going into Raven Guard turn 2. Let's hope some Grey Knights arrive. End of Raven Guard movement phase turn 2, and the bikers are zooming through the cloud of smoke from the exploded Contemptor. They are bringing their melter guns to bear on the other Contemptor, along with 1 other land speeder from the spear tip strike. These bikers have done an excellent job so far. The only remaining land speeder Over still, just on the edge of the city. He's stunned, he's not going anywhere for the time being, but the other bike squad, they are moving to see if their twin link bolters can make any impression on the mighty cataphracti plate of the World Eaters Terminators. But they're going to be joined in their fire by the newly deployed stern guard. They have 4 combi melters. They have all deployed 6 inches from their stunned rhino, and they're looking to melt their way through the traitors. The vanguard with power fists have run through the rubble. They are looking to jump up onto this ruin building to deal with the veterans and the other vanguard veterans. Their rhino moved forward 6 inches. They have disembarked into cover. They are looking to move towards the traitors and charge them in upcoming turns, but Nearchus was right to move his forces back towards the Manufactorum because the Imperial forces have coordinated brilliantly. The Ravens are doing a great job in taking on the World Eaters in the open, and they are reinforced, moving through the Manufactorum by nearly the entire Grey Knights force. The only thing that has failed to arrive is 1 squad of Terminators. So, right over on this flank, the Dreadnought has stomped on. He is looking to destroy this Predator with his las cannon missile launcher. The Interceptors, they warp shunted into this building, although they did lose one brother with a demon hammer as he warp shunted straight into a wall. And the rest of the Grey Knights, they are moving on through the ruins as quickly as they can. They're not allowed to teleport in and deep strike in this scenario. They're already on the ground. They have to move on foot to reinforce the Ravens. They're led by a squad of 5 Purifiers, and they're backed up by 1 squad of Terminators with a psi cannon. They only moved 1 inch through cover, so they're only just on the table. And the strike squad, they're moving forward. So we could see a hail of bolter fire erupting from all the Grey Knight storm bolters here in support of the attack of the Raven Guard veterans to the front. Has the trap finally slammed shut on Nearchus? He has done a great job so far in slaughtering his way through the Imperial forces. He has trapped them and outmaneuvered them at every engagement. But now, with the spear tip strike closing in, they surely have the speed to get away from Arian's reinforcements when they arrive. Could this be an excellent example of coordination between these 2 brother chapters? Let's see. We have a psychic phase. Now the Grey Knights have arrived. Raven Guard, Grey Knights, psychic phase, turn 2. End of Raven Guard and Grey Knight, psychic phase, turn 2, and unfortunately for the Purifiers, their cleansing flame turned out to be just out of range of the veterans, so the Grey Knights contented themselves by putting hammer hand on the Interceptors, the Purifiers, the Terminators and the Strike squad, just in case the World Eaters get any ideas of counter-charging straight away. Let's see how devastating the Raven Guard and Grey Knight shooting phase can be. End of Raven Guard and Grey Knight shooting phase turn 2, and the phase started disappointingly for the Ravens, although the Land Speeder with its multi-melter and 2 bikers with melter guns and the attack bike with its multi-melter, they all hit the Contemptor, with the bike squad rolling another 666 to hit. Only 2 of the melter shots penetrated, and 1 of those was saved by the Contemptor shielding, but the 1 melter shot that did get through has managed to immobilise the Contemptor, so at least they know where it is and it won't be moving. But it's probably happy just to stand and open fire with its assault cannons, really. The other bike squad from the spear tip strike managed to take down 1 cataphracti Terminator with a hail of bolt shells from their twin link bolters, and 2 more were melted by the Stern Guard's combi melters. These Vanguard, they are preparing to leap forwards and charge the veterans who have taken a real pasting. The strike squad and the Purifiers and the Terminators and the Interceptors all open fire. An absolute barrage of bolt shells took out 6 of the veterans, but they have held morale. They are preparing for the charge, and finally the Grey Knight's Dreadnought managed to hit the rear of the Predator with its twin-link las cannon, and it penetrated, shaking the World Eater's vehicle. Its missile launcher unfortunately missed, but at least the Plasma Executioner won't be firing at the newly arrived Grey Knights. It is looking like the forces of the Imperium are having the better of this engagement. Let's see how they get on with the charge The Vanguard veterans with Power Fists and Storm Shields are going to try to take out the World Eaters veterans in Raven Guard and Grey Knights Assault Phase Turn 2. End of Raven Guard and Grey Knight Assault Phase Turn 2, and assaults do not seem to be the way to go in this particular battle. Although they made it through the Overwatch fire and made it into contact with the World Eaters veterans, the 3 remaining Vanguard veterans were unprepared for the ferocity of the World Eaters, and as they prepared their Power Fists to do some damage, they were all hacked down by the vicious World Eaters. So, the assault phases have not worked out quite how we have expected so far. Let's see, could this be yet another turning point? Will Arian and the rest of his forces arrive? Is it too late? Let's see, going into World Eaters, Turn 3. End of World Eaters movement phase turn 3, and their woes continue as Arian and his huge squad of 20 World Eaters have once again failed to arrive, but at least the Rampagers have come, smashing their way through the rubble in their Land Raider. They have moved the full 12 inches onto the table, and they are looking to chase down the Raven Guard Spear Tip Strike. This Predator has held position. It seems the World Eaters on this flank have decided that they can rack up a lot of kill points by shooting down these land speeders, so this Predator will be targeting this one, and the Contemptor is going to try and blow this other land speeder out of the air with his twin assault cannons. It looks like these bikers may have got a bit close to the Terminators. The 2 remaining Cataphracti have started making their way towards the bikers. If they can make the charge, surely they will smash them to pieces with their Power Fists. Meanwhile, the veterans, they have moved to make sure they're in rapid fire range of the purifiers, but the Master of Signal, who is still attached to their squad, has not moved. He is preparing to cool down his bombardment, and Nearchus is leading his squad of World Eaters as quickly as possible through the rubble in the outskirts of this complex, but it's going to be a very tall order for him to make any charges this turn. So the World Eaters are trying to respond, but without Arian arriving, they are in quite a precarious position. And of course, without him, they have no psychic phase. So we go straight into World Eaters shooting phase turn 3. And the World Eaters shooting phase turn 3, and it's been a good phase for the traitors. The Predator opened fire with its heavy bolters and autocannon and blew this land speeder out of the air. Meanwhile, the hail of shells from the twin Kerry's assault cannons shredded this land speeder. The Spear Tip Strike has lost all of its land speeders now. These are easy kill points for the World Eaters. The newly arrived Land Raider managed to take out one of these bikers with one of its twin-linked las cannon. The Predator over here missed with its snapshots in its attempt to earn another easy kill point by finishing off the Stern Guard's Rhino, and Alak Damraz, the Master of Signal, he called down a pinpoint barrage which blew the purifiers to pieces. That was excellent coordination, and Nearchus and his squad continue to run at the Grey Knights. So, a good phase, despite not having an awful lot of shooting, but having a look at the kill points total, although the story on the table looks very different, the World Eaters have managed to rack up 6 points, whereas the Raven Guard and Grey Knights only have 1. So, they have some work to do, these loyal Imperial forces. And first we have a potential assault. Can the Cataphracti Terminators make it into these bikers in World Eaters? Assault phase turn 3. End of World Eaters, turn 3 assault phase, and the assault phase remains useless in this battle. The Terminators started stomping towards the bikers, but the first Terminator with the Reaper autocannon was taken out by a hail of bolt shells on Overwatch, and that put them too far away to make their charge. Or just him, he is the only Terminator left. So, another disappointing assault phase. Let's see what happens in Raven Guard and Grey Knights, turn 3. End of Raven Guard and Grey Knights movement phase turn 3, and hearing the rumble of heavy armour behind them, these bikers from the Spear Tip Strike have decided to kick up a gear and get moving. The ones with melters are going to attempt to finish off this Contemptor as they drive past, and these bikers are going to try to finish off the last Cataphractii Terminator as they zoom past him. If not, there's a couple of Rhino Stormbolters that might also have a go at him. The first company task force of the Raven Guard, they are moving in strength into the Manufactorum complex now, and they are going to try to eliminate these veterans and the Master of Signal in a hail of fire. And the Grey Knights, they are moving out as well. They want revenge against Nearchus for the death of their Grand Master, so the Interceptors and the Terminators are moving forwards to engage him. Maybe they haven't learned their lesson from the assault on the command base, but they're going to give it another go. And the Grey Knights have been reinforced by their other squad of Terminators that have come onto the table, following in the wake of the Dreadnought that has moved forward, and he is tasked with finishing off the Predator. Meanwhile, the Strike Squad are moving to link up with the Raven Guard. The Grey Knights and the Ravens have a lot of ground to make up. They're in an excellent tactical position, but they are lagging miles behind in terms of kill points. We'll see how they get on as we go into Grey Knights and Raven Guard turn 3 Psychic Phase. And the Raven Guard and Grey Knight Psychic Phase turn 3, and a low roll for warp charges meant they had to be quite selective about their powers, but the Interceptors still managed to give themselves Hammer Hand and Force, and the Terminators have given themselves Hammer Hand as well. So can these two squads take on Nearchus and his World Eaters? We'll see, but first we have Raven Guard and Grey Knights Shooting Phase turn 3. And our Raven Guard and Grey Knight Shooting Phase turn 3, and the Contemptor is wrecked. Another 3 hits from the chapter's best Melter Bite squad have taken him out, and the other squad from the Spear Tip Strike managed to gun down the lone Cataphractii as they motored past. Disappointment from the Stern Guard, although they managed 7 wounds on the veterans, none fell. The Sergeant's Artificer armour helping to absorb a lot of bolt shells from them, but the Vanguard veterans managed to shoot one down, and the Grey Knight Strike Squad took out another with their Stormbolters. Meanwhile, the Terminators shot down 2 of Nearchus' squad. The Interceptors had no effect with their Stormbolters, a lot of the shells bouncing off Nearchus himself's armour, and the newly arrived Terminators shot down 1 more World Eater with their Stormbolters. It looked like the Predator might survive when the Dreadnought missed with its twin-link las cannon despite the reroll, but it hit with a crack missile which has wrecked the World Eater's tank. Let's see if that firing was effective enough to allow the Grey Knights to finally triumph over Assault Captain Nearchus, going into Raven Guard and Grey Knights Assault Phase turn 3. End of Raven Guard and Grey Knights Assault Phase turn 3, and the Interceptors have done their chapter proud. They made it in to contact with Nearchus and his huge squad of World Eaters, and they looked doomed when the Terminators failed to cover the distance to support them. But Zarian issued a challenge. He did manage to cut down the Justicar, but he only inflicted 1 wound. The rest of the World Eaters had no effect at all until their sergeant swung his power fist and took out another. So they only killed 2 of the Grey Knights. In return, the Grey Knights hacked down 4 World Eaters, and Nearchus and his squad have begun to fall back. They have escaped the clutches of the Interceptors, who are in hot pursuit, but the spectacle of World Eaters falling back is something that you do not see very often. We have finally had an effective assault phase. Let's see if Nearchus will rally, if his brother turns up in World Eaters turn 4. End of World Eaters turn 4 movement phase, and Arian and his huge squad of World Eaters have finally arrived on the battlefield. Maybe it looks like they were waiting for the Rampager's Land Raider to bash a path for them through the ruins, but either way, with their chain axes and bolt pistols, along with Arian's biomancy powers, it is looking like they are just too far away from the Ravens to have any effect on this battle now. The Rampager's Land Raider is moving up. They will not give up. They always want blood, and they're going to give fire with their las cannons as they rumble forward as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, this Predator has held position, and he is going to try and pick up another kill point by taking out the badly damaged Raven Guard Rhino. Meanwhile, there are hardly any World Eaters left. Over this side of the battlefield, it is grim news for them. The veterans are moving to try to take out the interceptors that are putting pressure on their captain, Nearchus. He has, of course, rallied, and he is ordering his World Eaters to lay down a hail of bolt pistol fire and to stand their ground. He is a World Eater, so are they, and they do not like losing assaults. So things are looking rather grim for the World Eaters, although they are still winning 6 points to 4. Could it be too little too late in terms of Arian's arrival? Let's see. We have a psychic phase. World Eaters psychic phase turn 4. End of World Eaters psychic phase turn 4, and Arian has assessed the battlefield. He's realised that the Ravens are slipping through his grasp. His powers are a long way out of range, so he's not going to risk casting warp speed just for perils of the warp. He is miles away. So we go into World Eaters shooting phase turn 4. End of World Eaters shooting phase turn 4, and the Rampagers in their Land Raider have moved flat out, contemptuously barging a wrecked Raven Guard land speeder out of their way. Meanwhile, Arian has ordered his World Eaters to sprint towards the battle, but they are still a long way away. At least the Predator managed to rack up another kill point as a volley from its Predator cannon took out the Stern Guard's Rhino. And very disappointing from the few remaining veterans in the ruins. Their fire had no effect on the interceptors. Despite hitting on 2s, they caused no wounds, and the very poor amount of fire that can be put out by Nearchus and his squad, unsurprisingly, also had no effect on the 3 remaining interceptors. They can't charge, they just rallied, so with no assaults, it's looking grim to be a traitor at the moment as we go into Raven Guard and Grey Knights turn 4. End of Raven Guard and Grey Knights movement phase turn 4, and Arian and his forces are now alone in this half of the battlefield. They are still in the outskirts of Farlight City. The Ravens have motored off. The bikers, they are closing in. They're closing the trap on Nearchus. They are going to try to take out as many World Eaters as possible in a storm of bolt fire, and they will be joined by pretty much the entire Grey Knights force. The plan is to whittle down all of the World Eaters and leave Nearchus standing alone in order to face the wrath of the Sons of Titan. So he's surrounded by the Dreadnought, one squad of Terminators, the Interceptors, the other squad of Terminators, and it looks like the Strike Squad may add their Stormbolter fire from range as well. Combined with the fire of the Raven Guard bikers, will that be enough? We shall see. And meanwhile, the other elements of the Raven Guard army, the Vanguard and the Stern Guard, they are closing in on the remaining veterans and the World Eaters Master of Signal. So we could see all forces in the Manufactorum for the traitors wiped out, and it does not look like the rest of Arian's reinforcements can cope with what the loyal Space Marines have. But first, let's see how many psychic powers the Grey Knights can summon in Raven Guard and Grey Knight Psychic Phase turn 4. End of Raven Guard and Grey Knight Psychic Phase turn 4, and another very low roll for warp charges meant the Grey Knights only had 6 dice, but nevertheless they managed to get Hammer Hand and Force on these Terminators preparing to charge Nearchus' squad, and this Interceptor squad, they just went for Force. If they can sneak through 1 wound onto Nearchus, he will go down. Let's see. First, the World Eaters are going to have to weather a lot of fire over this side of the battlefield in Raven Guard and Grey Knight shooting phase turn 4. End of Raven Guard and Grey Knight shooting phase turn 4, and these World Eaters just will not go down. A hail of fire hit the 2 remaining veterans and the Master of Signal from the Vanguard and the Stern Guard, but they just could not fail a save. Must have been at least 10 wounds saved, and not a single one fell. Meanwhile, some of Nearchus' squad did go down. It's only him, his sergeant and one World Eater left. They lost another 3 World Eaters and their apothecary, crucially, but again they made a huge number of armour and cover saves against all of the units shooting at them. But they still have problems, both of these squads, as we go into Raven Guard and Grey Knights Assault Phase Turn 4. End of Raven Guard and Grey Knights Assault Phase Turn 4, and the Vanguard veterans finally dealt with the World Eaters holding this building. Although the World Eaters veterans refused to go down without a fight, they took out one Vanguard with Overwatch and they killed another one with their chain blades in the assault before the Raven Guard finally got to grips with them with their power fists and slaughtered the 2 remaining veterans and the World Eater's Master of Signal. They get an extra point for that as he is an independent character. And finally, Grandmaster Polydorus is avenged. The Terminators made it in. They lost their Justicar and another Terminator as Nearchus contemptuously challenged them and hacked them both down. And with their attacks they managed to take out the final World Eater's Sergeant. And then it took all of the attacks of the Interceptors with their halberds, but one snuck through the World Eater's Artificer armour, and with force on, Nearchus fell. And that is worth another 3 points for them. That's Slay the Warlord and another unit and an independent character, along with another point for the World Eaters Tactical Squad itself, bringing the score to 11 points to the Raven Guard and Grey Knights and 7 to the World Eaters. We are going to end this battle there. Arian and his virtually untouched forces, they know that they cannot hope to triumph. Now they need to pull back themselves and reassess this campaign. They have lost their commander, but given how long it took Arian to turn up, you have to wonder whether he is entirely innocent of what has happened here today. Still, the tables have finally turned back in the Imperium's favour. This battle, well, it was swung both by the fantastic luck that the Grey Knights had with their reserve rolls. They virtually all turned up just when they were needed. And the Raven Guard force, it looked very small at the beginning of this game, but their mobility allowed them to easily get away from the World Eaters reinforcements that were arriving. This has been an epic game. We're enjoying this campaign. We hope you are enjoying it as well. Thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe to our channel and we will keep producing as many Warhammer 40,000 battle reports as we can. See ya.